Hello, everybody, and thank you for attending today's webinar. We apologize for the delay, and we're going to get everything going now. So at the Ontario Society of Professional Engineers, we believe that the engineering profession must increase equality, diversity, and inclusion to thrive. We have made this a key component of our strategic plan, Engineering the Future Together, and is one of the key values of our organization that guides our culture and defines our brand. OSPE relies on the wide range of experiences that our members and stakeholders have to problem solve and innovative on issues facing society. We believe that bringing professionals of all diversity and dimensions together will help the entire profession learn and grow. In 2017, OSPE launched the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee to complement and strengthen our legacy efforts in advancing women in the profession. Today, we are focused on overcoming this challenge through the lens of intersectionality through the Diversity and Inclusion Task Force. We work to raise both awareness regarding the challenges facing different members of our community and provide education to drive change within the STEM sector. OSPE utilizes various vehicles to address challenges of underrepresentation, discrimination, and exclusion within the profession. We understand the importance of addressing less discussed barriers facing members of the engineering community, such as those that are neurodiverse. Today, we're hosting this webinar with our partners, Specialisterne Canada, to help develop your understanding of autism, neurodiversity, and how Specialisterne works to create a more inclusive labor market in Canada for engineers. Specialisterne Canada works with businesses to help them integrate more neurodiversity into their workforce. Working with some of Canada's leading employers, they provide meeting career opportunities while providing the value of different thinking. So today we have Julia Martensson, the Recruiting Relationship Manager of Specialisterne Canada.
Great. Thank you very much for that introduction. And a big welcome to everyone who signed up and is joining us today. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to raise some awareness and provide some insight into the work that we do. And as part of that, provide some awareness around autism, neurodiversity, and inclusion, and how those parts really integrate with each other and are really important both for our society, individuals, and organizations. So again, my name is Julia Martensson, and I've been working with Specialisterne for a few years now, and I have a background in human resource management. Very, very happy to be here, and we're very excited about our partnership with OSPE, and we're really looking forward to seeing how we can engage that community and together work towards our goal of enabling a better employment market for those who are neurodivergent. So today I'm going to be speaking a little bit about our organization and what we do. I'll be sharing some information about the employees that we work with, some roles we filled to date, how our process works for recruitment, and after that I'll introduce some concepts and things that can be good to know about neurodiversity, and also how that often adds value to teams in a very important way. And then after that, I'm going to be speaking a little bit about what we call dandelion thinking. As you can see, our logo is a dandelion, so I'm going to give some context around that as well, and how we use those principles to guide good management and more inclusive cultures. And then towards the end, I'll share how to connect, regardless if you are someone looking for work or if you're someone within an organization who might be interested in learning more. In terms of questions, I will make some room for that towards the end, but if there are questions that come up throughout, feel free to just post them in the comments, and I might just see to Natasha to navigate that and let me know so I can answer those as we go. I do apologize that you won't be able to see me. We just had some technical issues, so I wasn't able to get the camera up and running. So yeah, I do apologize for that, but I hope it will be an interactive session anyway. So a quick overview of Specialisterne and who we are. So Specialisterne is a global organization that now is in 17 different countries. And each of those chapters works individually and as a collective to change how the employment market operates. We have a global goal of enabling 1 million jobs for those on the autism spectrum or others who have other forms of neurodivergence. And I'm going to be talking a little bit later about neurodiversity and how to kind of think about those terms and what it means to us as well. But the goal of those organizations is really to work directly with corporate partners and decision makers, researchers, community organizations, and individuals, advocates to help shift the mindset of how we view this talent pool and also innovate and create better processes and environments so people can be more productive and that way reach that goal of enabling 1 million jobs. And to us, that goal is very important because it's not just a number, it represents systemic change. So we're not an organization that's just here to get a few people jobs. We're really here to systemically look at processes and enable companies to interact better with the neurodivergent population. And when we have reached that 1 million jobs, we know that we had enough impact on the labor market so we can go and focus on other things or ways to overcome other challenges. Quick background and history. So Specialisterne was founded by someone named Torkel Sonne in Denmark in 2004. Torkel was currently working within a telecom company where he was a people manager. He also had a son that was diagnosed with autism when he was 2 years old. And like most parents would do at that stage, Torkel started looking into how he could make sure that his son had a good future. And he quickly learned, and remember this was in 2004, that the way the employment market currently operates, there's a very small chance that his son will be able to gain meaningful employment. So as a result of that, he started to do a lot of work within the community, and he started to work with young adults on the spectrum. And he quickly saw that many of these adults, they weren't able to enter into the labor market in a productive way. But at the same time, they had a lot of skills and talents that he was really looking for as a hiring manager. So he started a consulting business where he would hire individuals on the spectrum, and he would they would work as IT consultants. And that within that business, he would charge businesses market competitive rates, and he would pay the people market competitive wages. And that idea and that business quickly became very competitive, and it started his ideas around different recruitment practices that I'll speak to in a bit, so they spread across Europe. And that's how the foundation Specialisterne was founded. Since then, a lot has changed, and we're no longer focused on IT. We today work in a lot of different types of industries across the globe. And we've also come to broaden it to neurodiversity, because we see that many of the things that we do that tend to benefit and work well for those in the spectrum also tend to work really well for other parts of the populations that might be facing similar barriers to employment. So we've taken that global goal of 1 million jobs, and we have converted it into based on the Canadian population. So here in Canada, we're working to enable 25,000 jobs. And on the screen here, you see 4 pillars. And these are the things that we're very focused on that we think will help us achieve that in Canada. So one thing is that we're working hard to proving the business value of this untapped talent pool. Through constant data collection and measuring everything that we do, we're able to show to businesses and the community that really this is a talent pool that's great and has a lot to offer. And in addition to that, we're very focused on making what we do something that employers can integrate into their processes. So we teach employers upfront different processes and different ways of doing things to help increase awareness. Then over time, we also start to integrate that into their own procedures and processes. And that way we help businesses change the way they're doing things and help them access this talent pool. Another thing that we do is that we support employees from the start to finish. So throughout the recruitment process, as people start to integrate into the roles, and when they continue to perform in those roles, we're there to support to make sure that they are feeling happy and they're feeling comfortable and able to reach their potential. And we work similarly with the managers to help them develop their capabilities for working with diverse thinkers and people. And the fourth pillar that we're very focused on is to constantly innovate and build on the successes that we see. Especially now with COVID-19, we've been able to rethink some of the things that we do and integrate more technology and new solutions to do things even better. Now on the screen, you see some example of employers that we have worked with here in Canada. With many of these employers, we worked with them multiple times. And that to us is a very important indicator that what we're doing is working well for the businesses. When we partner with a business, we're not doing it just to help them run one project and be able to tick a box. We're really looking for sustainable partnerships. It starts with a recruitment project, and it might grow into something deeper where we work to provide more support to help them improve their internal processes. With some of these partners, we are also doing more consulting work. So in addition to just recruiting, we're really helping them understand what issues they're facing and help them remove those barriers. We also, so the services that we offer can be categorized as follows. So we have recruitment and assessment. We have education packages to increase awareness and help organizations just build a more welcoming and inclusive workforce. We also provide e-learning services and as well as consulting, as mentioned. And on this page here, you see a list of roles that we've filled to date. And the purpose of this list here is just to really show that there is great diversity in terms of the kinds of roles that our talent pool has been able to contribute to. And we are constantly working to integrate into new and other industries and diversify this list. You see there, and many of you, especially since I'm assuming that many are in the engineering industry, you see that there's a lot of IT and financial services. The reason for that is just because we have really grown substantial partnerships and worked with many different departments in there. But right now, where we are as an organization is that we are in the process of growing, both in size, but also beyond this current province. So a lot of the work we do is currently in Ontario, but we're doing a geographical expansion, and we're also really getting into emerging into new industries as well. And one thing that I would mention as well on this list is that most of the roles that we have or tend to recruit for would be considered early career jobs, but we have also recruited for more senior roles as well. And amongst employers that we work with, there's a strong appetite for hiring both people that are very early in their career and also people who might have more experience but are looking to just really reach their potential with our help. And just to circle back on what I said about the fact that we measure everything that we do. So this slide here shows some of the statistics that we really think is important. And we have a third-party evaluator that measures everything that we do. His name is Martensson, and he's at York University. And so there you see a few different key data points. So one thing is retention. So after 12 months 90% of the hires are still in the roles, which is actually a lot higher than within most organizations. And for us, that is an indicator of the fact that the process that we use is one that accurately assesses the skills that's needed for the job and matches that with the talent. So how we actually assess if someone is good for a job and if the job is good for the person is something that number to us really provides a foundation for. And then you see as well in terms of onboarding pace and performance that most do as well or better than neurotypical peers. And in most cases, no, in 93% of the case, there's no or minor accommodations are needed. And I'm going to talk a little bit later on what that actually means to us, because generally as humans, we all have needs and strengths, and often we all need some kind of accommodation or adjustment to really reach our potential. But often within businesses, you think that that just because you're hiring someone from a diversity program or who might be considered having a disability, that there'd be a lot of work or money involved in actually hiring that person, but that's really not the case. And then if you look at the new hire feedback, you can see that 94% report that they feel capable of performing all or most job tasks. So to us, that means that the fit for the job is great. And they also feel that the manager was well prepared to work with them. And then you have personally, my favorite number, which is that 97% report that the employment outcome has to improve their lives. Because to us, it's not about just getting people jobs. It's about getting people into meaningful employment. And employment to us is not meaningful unless it has a positive impact on someone's life. And I won't go into detail in terms of how process works, but I think for the conversation, it would be good to have a high-level understanding of how we do things. And before I get into that, I just wanted to mention that within with the talent population that we work with, the underemployment or unemployment rates are really, really high, especially in comparison to other diversity groups. And to us, that reason is not because people are not motivated to work, not have the skills to work. It's mainly because of how businesses and employers recruit and how they integrate people into teams and environments. So we are really focused on shifting from focusing on challenges within people to looking at how can we just use better, more inclusive processes, and how can we create better environments where everyone, regardless of their needs, can be successful. So the way that we do that within our program is that we first engage with employers and we get them to provide us with the jobs that they're looking to fill. So in phase one there, we take those roles and we sit down with the hiring managers and we do a deep job analysis to really make sure that we understand the role, the environment, how the team communicates. We talk about how they typically train and onboard people, and just really anything that would be good to know before we start to find the people and match them to those jobs. After that, we use a specialized recruitment process to connect with people who have an interest in those kinds of roles. And we use a tailored process to try to figure out what everyone has to offer in terms of skills, capabilities, and competencies. So in that recruitment phase, what we do is we actually don't use interviews at all, and we don't rely too much on resumes. It's actually proven that interviews, for example, is a poor indicator of future performance, and it's a method that's been used for decades. But it's really time that companies start to recognize that there are other ways of determining fit for a role. So that's what we really focus on advocating as well. And when it comes to resumes as well, often we find that many people that are within our talent population have great skills, great abilities, really strong competencies, but they may not have the shiniest resume because of some of the barriers that might have faced, or in some cases, people just follow a different path to gain those skills than what can be considered the norm. So we instead bring candidates through a structured questionnaire to gather information about their backgrounds. And then in the next phase in that recruitment process is what we call an employment workshop. In some cases, it's a completely virtual workshop, and in some cases, it's in person. But in either case, we spend a full day working on projects together with people. And it's very hands-on, task-based. There's a lot of problem solving involved, and we work together with those individuals to see how people approach different tasks, how people solve more complex problems, and how they interact with others, and their attention to detail and analytical approach, and a lot of things that you wouldn't really learn about someone just from interviewing them. After that, we bring everything together. We provide each individual with a business profile that provides them with insight into their strengths, and we sit down with the hiring manager and help them make a hiring decision based on those profiles without actually meeting the person. So that to us is as well a way for us to avoid some of the bias that you typically see within recruitment processes. We're giving the hiring managers facts, and they make a decision on those facts that are based on a neutral observation of someone's capabilities. After that, we move into phase 3, where we bring those that have been selected for roles through a structured training and onboarding program. So for most, I don't know if there are any hiring managers or leaders that are listening, but we all probably know, or maybe just even from personal experience of starting a new job, that often your first week or so might be a little bit structured, and the manager may not be able to give the full attention, and there's a lot of things that just happens all at once. So instead of creating that kind of situation that can be very overwhelming for most people, what we do is that we structure a 4-week training that's meant to integrate the person into the role, into the team and the work environment in a step-by-step process. And the goal of that is really to enable each person to build up their comfort zone and really just be comfortable within the environment to be able to perform. With that as well, we go in and we hold broader education sessions where we try to help peers and managers develop their understanding of autism and neurodiversity, and give them some practical tools to think about that generally just can help them become better communicators, help them enable teams to think in different ways and leverage different perspectives, and also help bust some of the stereotypes that might be present just as a result of limited knowledge about autism and neurodiversity. Then after that, we have an employment support manager that comes in. That person is there to help each manager and each recruit develop a strong working relationship together. So we look at communication styles from within the manager, we look at learning styles, and we develop just a plan for them to work really effectively together. And then after that, the person is in the role, and we just provide support as needed. So it's everything that we do is really based on the individual. So exactly what the support and training looks like might depend on that person. But in most cases, we hire people in groups. So typically, we would onboard 5 to 8 individuals at the same time. And this process is one that we offer through all our recruitment-focused programs. So we have programs where we fill full-time roles, so we recruit post-secondary students into co-op and paid internships. So there's a variety of roles, and we have also many different models that can work larger organizations, smaller organizations that might just want to test it out and get started, but have the same kind of substantial support behind launching something like this. connect afterwards. Just going to move into neurodiversity and try to explain that concept a little bit more, and especially what it means to us and how it inspires the work that we do. So neurodiversity is a concept really that speaks to the fact that the human population, by definition, is neurodiverse, regardless of what kind of diversity you're talking about, whether it's gender, left or right-handedness, or disabilities, or ethnic backgrounds. Everyone is diverse in the way they think. Each of our brains are wired and work in different ways. So that's just the way it is. A human population is neurodiverse. In a way, you can't really say that a person that we are working with neurodiverse people, because then we will be working with everyone. Rather than that, we talk about the fact that the way our world operates and the way we design processes and environments, it's designed in line with a neurotypical way of being. So those that can consider themselves, falling very within the norm in terms of thinking, communicating, and just how their brains are wired and work, they can be considered neurotypical. But then there are people that diverge from the norms that might have a different way of communicating, a different way of experiencing in the world, a different way of interpreting information, or a different way of problem solving. But what we're trying to do is to create processes and environments that actually welcome those people as well. Because as mentioned, many of the processes and environments that we're currently using tend to shut those people out, or at least create some kind of barrier. So in reality, of what we're really trying to push for as well is that those differences really should be valued just like we value other kinds of variation within the human population. So, it's been well known that, for example, having a good balance between males and females on the team can bring a big benefit. At the same time, we should really start valuing that differences in how people communicate and think, because that can help us build a more diverse and more competitive workforce. Here are some examples of neurodiversity. So you see autism there, which is the neurodivergence that we always lead with. But there are also many other conditions and ways people identify that might mean that they can be considered as part of the neurodivergent population as well. So the big question is, why does it matter? So I think everyone, or I hope everyone, sees the benefit and the importance of making sure that everyone in our society is welcomed and can have opportunity for employment. But then if we go even beyond that and look at some of the concrete benefits that they actually can bring to teams or classrooms, or even leadership teams, is that diversity and the diversity of thought typically means that you create a group that has more different perspectives and more different ideas, and it can also create more conversations and different viewpoints, which is really, really important for innovation and problem solving. There's a really interesting study that Google did on diverse teams that shows in a very statistical way that the diverse teams, if managed in a good way and if they're enabled to work well together, that they contribute to innovation in a very significant way. And another big piece is that if you don't find good ways of finding diverse talent, you're really missing out on a huge talent pool. And in today's labor market, and especially since we are operating in an international and very competitive employment market, that you want to be able to always have access to the largest talent pool. And within industries that are pretty competitive for talent as well, really what you're doing as a business owner is that you're missing out on that talent, and you might just be reaching for that same kind of similar talent that will just create a less diverse team. So really, diversity can indirectly lead to both better competitiveness, as well as just long-term economic growth, because that is linked to how competitive your organization is. And I just included a few quotes as well that we have gathered recently through some of our projects. And for each one of them, they are in a way demonstrating the direct benefits of neurodiversity. And one thing that I would want to mention too is that it's in every single project that we've done so far, there hasn't been a single time where not at least one colleague or manager or team lead kind of just said, why don't we just do this for everyone? We took this process and it just improved everyone's situation and so forth. And that really ties into the importance as well of universal design, that if we create better processes for one part of the population, typically it's a process that will benefit many, many more. So the CABC hiring managers, they talk about the fact that when a person joined them, the whole team adapted how they communicated, and it led to just clearer communication and being more effective, which is a great benefit that's really common for those that do bring on more neurodiversity into their team. And at SAP, there were a lot of managers there that from the beginning, and SAP was one of the first businesses in the world that engaged with Specialisterne. So a lot of managers were quite unsure whether this would work, and there's a lot of stigma and stereotypes involved, but they really learned that if you focus on the strengths in someone, you have the ability to develop everyone, regardless of where they are, and in that way overcome concerns. And the last one down there, it's actually from an IBM employee, so someone that we recruited. And to us, this quote means that many of the people that are part of this population may not have the self-confidence, or they may have been told their whole life that they have challenges or issues and so forth, and they have to overcome them. But if you create a more inclusive environment where differences are valued, and people come into those environments and they can see that, I'm not the only one that's different, they can start to believe in themselves. And if you then empower them and believe in them and you focus on their strengths, you can help the person believe in themselves as well and take it to the next step. And the concept around neurodiversity is very closely aligned with our core principles and the values that inspire everything that we do. So, and we use the dandelion as a metaphor for that. And I'm just going to spend just a couple of minutes talking about the dandelion and why we chose that as a metaphor. And there's a few different meanings behind it. But if you think back to when you were young and you were a kid, and you're probably running around, maybe picking up dandelions and rubbing them against your chin or blowing on them so they would blow out into the air and so forth. As a kid, we kind of thought they were great and fun and so forth, so the positive. Then we grow up and society shapes us, and the society forms our opinions in one way, and suddenly you have a green lawn and you just see these dandelions, things that are sticking up as weeds. So what's really changed there is not the dandelion, it's your perception. And the fact that you want a green lawn where everything kind of just looks the same. But then, in reality, what most people don't know is that dandelions are amazing herbs, and that they can be used as medicine, really healthy tea. There are a lot of healing properties. But in order to leverage those strengths, you might need to bring it into your kitchen and nurture that herb. So if we spend some time understanding what the strengths are of a person, and we create an environment where those values and those strengths can emerge, then we really reap the benefits. So it's really the whole conversation around context and how you look at something is really important, regardless of what kind of diversity you're talking about. And so really, if you cultivate those strengths and let it come out, and we work to improve processes and improve environments, then ultimately we'll be able to reap the benefits of our whole human population, and because everyone has a way to add value. We just need to figure out a way to integrate that value into our own environments and stop discriminating against diversity or being different. And one other important concept is the concept around the comfort zone. So as humans as well, we all have things that we might need in order to be comfortable. So for example, if you think about the room that you're in right now, if your AC broke, or if suddenly it was 90 degrees Fahrenheit in the room, you probably wouldn't be able to take in what I'm talking about. You would just be focusing on the fact that it's so hot. The same would apply if it was freezing cold. So, and if you take another example, for example, when you're sitting and you're watching a movie at cinema, if someone's sitting right next to you and they're opening this bag and it's crunching, and all you can just hear that, and it's really hard to focus on the movie because you're getting frustrated and you're uncomfortable. And therefore, you're in a way that sound is disabling you from really enjoying the movie. So we apply that kind of concept to everything that we do when we work to really understand each person and what they might need and want to be comfortable. Because when we are comfortable, that's when we're productive. So the same thing goes at work. If you have a sensitivity to light, for example, if you have a light shining into your eyes in a very strong way, it might be really hard for you to remain focused. And often for someone on the autism spectrum, for example, they might spend most of their life being a little bit uncomfortable in the world that we've created. But if we find ways to make people really comfortable and figure out what they need in order to reach that level of comfort, and constantly expand that comfort zone, and together with the person understand how to do that, then we can really help people be productive and happy in that environment. So here's just a little movie. The sound works. See, I apologize. I think there's some. Sorry, I think it was some squeaking sound back there. So speaking about comfort zones and ability to focus, that was definitely distracting me. Anyways, I just wanted to show that video because it in a way illustrates the fact that how you perceive someone is not necessarily the right way to perceive someone. We often need to try to understand why people might be behaving differently, and also just be more open to learning more about people before judging. Okay, so next up, I'm just going to mention a few things and thoughts around interviews that I've mentioned has been the way most employers assess talent. And for us, also as mentioned, it's one of the reasons why many employers are not that great at interacting with the talent pool that we work with. So if you think about interviews and you think about what I said around diversity and the importance of diversity and how diversity can add value, and then you think about the interview and what that really is about, then you can, one thing that you can kind of connect it to is with different biases. And often every one of us, we all have bias we can't get rid of it, but we can become more aware of it. And often within an interview situation, you're using a lot of bias to try to make up your mind around things. And that can typically be rooted in limited understanding of for example, people who might be on the autism spectrum or have another neurodivergence. So one of those biases is affiliation or similarity bias. And it's a tendency to want to work with people we have affinity with or who are like us. So often it's really easy to work in a team if everyone has the same opinions, the same way of being, same way of thinking. But at the same time, that's just one viewpoint if you simplify things. So the gentlemen around this table, they might have a great time working together, but will this table be the one that will spark innovation and solve problems in a lot of different ways? My opinion is probably not. And so in a way, the interview is a way for someone to try to, by just talking to the person, figure out if they're good for a job. But the big question is, what are we actually measuring? So this is another illustration that kind of speaks to my point. I'll give everyone a second to read it. So in this case, Steve, he might be on the autism spectrum, and Steve has gone in for an interview. And Steve has an amazing engineering background, and he has been doing extremely well throughout his education. And it's known that he's an expert at building houses, but maybe he's not the strongest candidate in terms of selling himself in an interview. But what often happens in interviews is that whoever is the best at selling and talking about why they're so good at something, they get the job. And this really is the reality in many cases. So one thing that we often talk about within our organization is, how do we help employers move from using interviews to competency-based selection and assessment? And that principle and the concept of competency-based hiring is the fact that you figure out what it really takes to do the job well. You take those competencies, which can be skills, abilities, knowledge, and so forth, and then you go and look exactly for that in people. So you try to find methods to really measure someone's competencies, and you move away from measuring someone's ability to sell themselves, or measuring someone's, or just relying, for example, on resumes and experience and so forth. And if all the companies out there were really effective in doing this, we would solve many of the skills gaps that we see out there, because there are many people that are available and able to work, but typically they get filtered out because of the fact that we rely on resumes and interviews. And since our organization is focused on autism and neurodiversity, I'm going to give you just a little bit of I'm hesitant to call it crash course, but a quick intro to the spectrum. And this is really related to many of the misconceptions that we see out there. So autism as a diagnosis is something that can really impact everyone differently. And many of us might see autism and kind of relate it to our minimal understanding or experience in interacting with people on the spectrum. I have, throughout the years I've been a Specialisterne, I've met a lot of different people and really learned that everyone is different, and there's no point trying to make assumption about someone just based on a diagnosis. It's really about working with a person to understand them best and learning from them. And one common misconception is that people think of autism as linear. So they think about a person being not at all autistic or very autistic, but that doesn't quite work. And if you're trying to place someone along this line too, you're in a way causing problems for the person. So if in this case, this person here, he lands somewhere in the middle, and based on your perception of how little or very autistic someone is, I'm using quotation marks, that might impact your perception of what they might need. So in a way, if you put someone and rank them as just a little bit autistic, you're probably thinking that, you know what, he'll be fine. Maybe I won't worry too much about how I communicate, or they'll be fine in this environment. And the thing is, for that person, this is so individual in terms of how autism impacts us. You might, that person might be very uncomfortable in a specific environment. So here on this slide, we really see that suddenly you've made assumption about someone, and then that doesn't align with the reality. So a better way of thinking about the spectrum is the fact that it is a spectrum. And this is a way, this is in a way something that can be extended to the general population. That we all have strengths and challenges and so forth. And we're all part of the spectrum. But in a way, with many people on the autism spectrum, in certain areas, they might need a little bit of help to be comfortable and be at their best. And it might be really strong in some areas, and it might be just like everyone else in some. So it's not about labeling people or trying to make assumptions about people. It's about understanding that in reality, everyone is different, and we have to recognize that and help people be comfortable to be able to reach their potential. And as we're getting closer to 1 p.m., I just wanted to leave everyone with a few more things that have touched upon so far, but also might be some concepts to think about or take away or do some research on. So one thing is mentioned is competency-based assessment and selection. For us, as mentioned, it's a way to assess and access diverse talent, and also make sure that the people that you bring in are really good for the job. And then our belief and what we're striving for is to create processes that generally work better for everyone. It can help businesses perform better, help more people get into the labor market, and so forth. So universal design and designing things that work well for everyone, while also really taking an individual approach to management and understanding that every person is different. Those two things together can really lead to successful outcomes. And one last thing, in case there are any hiring managers, HR professionals, or anyone else that ever think about the conversation around fit within a team, what we typically try to help people understand is that, what does that actually mean to you? Is it culture fit, or is it fit in the sense of being able to add to a team? And is that something that you should really be judging based on an interview, or are there other ways to understand how people can add value to a team and add to a culture? Because if you think about a culture as something that's constantly being added to rather than fitting people into a culture, that's when we can really expand and diversify. So regardless of your background, if you're just interested in getting some more information, maybe interested in getting some resources, or just scheduling a quick call to learn more, would love to connect with you. You can either find more information at specialisterne.ca, or you can send me an email. And I'd love to provide more information and overall to iterate a lot of the things that we do and our whole goal and what our organization stands for. Those are things that we're working towards in collaboration with others. We're not here to change the world on our own, so we're always looking to connect with people who share similar goals or want to be part of it somehow. There's a few minutes left, so I don't know if there are any questions. I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Julia. I was just asked if you can share the video on the application letter, and that it was very helpful. So maybe if that's something you could pass over to me and I can email it out.
Absolutely.
Did we have any additional questions for today? Doesn't seem like anybody has any questions. If you do, we do have a questions box. Okay, well, so Julia, thank you so much for your insight and to help us to understand more about autism neurodiversity, especially within the workplace, and how companies should employ a different way of thinking, and how Specialisterne Canada helps to create a more vibrant and neurodiverse labor market. So we appreciate it. We appreciate your time. Again, if any of the participants wanted some more information, you have Julia's information here on the screen. Please jot that down. If not, then you can email ambassador@ospi.on.ca. And we can get you any answers that you need. So we have Rejan Amy here just saying thank you very much. She's our president and chair here at OSPI. She really enjoyed your presentation, Julia, and think it really aligns well with diversity and inclusion initiatives. So thank you, she said.
Perfect. Thank you.
We do have a question. Is there any opportunity for non-autism engineers to help this community, like voluntary or as a job opportunity?
I would say absolutely. We do from time to time have projects, for example, where we have volunteers helping out. And typically how we go about that is that we connect with the person, learn what they're interested in, see how that aligns with the work that we do. So I'd love to connect more to see the alignment. So just send me an email.
Okay, perfect. How do individuals that don't have a diagnosis but display a number of characteristics of autism get connected to supports or even get a diagnosis?
Yeah, so we don't issue diagnosis, but might be able to connect with some places that do. Other than that, we do offer coaching, which I'll be happy to provide more information into. In some cases too, we know that it can be hard to obtain a diagnosis, and in some cases we can have more open conversations with people to learn more about what the challenges look like. Because since we're working with neurodiversity and so forth, we might be able to help make some connections within the employment space anyways, because there's some similarities there. So we're happy to connect on that too.
Okay. Yes, I can, if you don't see the presentation here, I can definitely send out, they're just asking for the email addresses. So I will send that out as well.
Perfect.
Okay. Were there any other questions here? Okay, no problem. Yeah, we will send it. Okay, so thank you everybody for participating, for your time. Julia, thank you as well. And if there are any other questions, just respond to your confirmation emails that you've received from OSPI. It's ambassador@ospi.on.ca. And we look forward to, meeting all again, joining another webinar, and just getting together during this time. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful long weekend.
Thank you.